Okay, right now we're going to make our homemade sweet potatoes with the alternate version of frying them. I'd imagine this would work with any type of potato, whether it's sweet potatoes or any kind of regular russets or golden potatoes. And as I often do when I'm trying to do something from home, I go online, I look at a few different recipes and kind of make my own personal version of that. That just kind of makes the most sense for what I want to do. So all you're gonna do first, and for these I'm using the purple yams, and all you're gonna do is just gonna start slicing them. It doesn't matter like how large you want them, as long as they're like fairly uniform, so that way they'll cook more evenly. So it doesn't really. I'm gonna make fairly thin ones. They'll tend to cook a little faster, and then obviously once they're made, also I won't have to chew them quite as much, which is important to me with my condition. And I mean, they don't have to be perfect, but as long as they're relatively close, similar. Try to split this one more time. It's not a really sharp knife, so I want to be careful and not do anything dumb. But I think this will work. Kind of half slice, half chop. I think it'll work. Yeah, there we go. So I've got a ton of potatoes for the challenge that I'm making myself today, and I'm pretty much just going to do this with all of them, and then I'll show you how I cook them. Yeah, I think I can split this one more time. And if they're really long, I'll probably eventually cut more of them this way as well, just because they're easy to deal with. I don't mind having the kind of small fries anyway. So that's that. I'm gonna keep doing it for the rest of them, and then we'll cook them. Before you jump right into cooking them, there's one more step. Just to let them soak in water for about 20-30 minutes, and you can rinse them and change the water a couple times if you'd like to, maybe 2 or 3 as well. I usually go about 12 minutes and just change the water once. And one more thing I forgot to mention, an optional thing, you may have noticed that I didn't peel them beforehand, and there's really no rhyme or reason to that. It's just a preference. If you're a fellow IBDer like me, the skin is not really good to digest. I don't say it's not good to digest, but it's harder to digest. Personally, I've never had any trouble with it as long as I'm careful, and I like the skin, so I left it on. And also simply because I don't have a peeler, and I don't feel like cutting it, just with a knife. That would take way too long. So, in the times when I do this as an experiment, and then obviously now, I'm just leaving the skin on just because, it's just. There's no need to take it off, and it's just one more step. So I'm just leaving it on. But obviously, if you don't really like the skins as much, then yeah, definitely you can peel them beforehand, and you get more of the just kind of fleshy part of the potato. But yeah, for these, the skin's staying on. So after we let them cook, then we're gonna I'll show you how I cook them, and we'll get them going. All right, after they've soaked and dried them off a little bit, they're ready to cook, bake in the oven. I don't think whatever kind of oil you use, or even like just a fat or butter, matters as much as far as like safety or health. If that's not something you're concerned with anyway, then it really doesn't matter. But I know when you like deep fry them, the oil plays a little bit more of a role. I use coconut oil and melted it down just because I think that flavor complements the potatoes, the purple potatoes in particular. So that's what I like to use. And then I've just lightly dusted it with garlic, granulated garlic, paprika, and black pepper. And then I'm probably going to add a little bit more as I'm cooking too. So then what I do is I cook them at 425 for, I said I did them in about maybe like 6 to 8 minute increments for 3 times, kind of, shaking them, just making sure that they all get a little bit of it. So I'm gonna just dump one of these in at a time. They're probably not completely dry, but again, I think the moisture matters more for the frying, because that's not safe to dump something wet just right into the fryer. So those ones on top obviously didn't get touched yet, but as I shake them up and add a little more each time, I think they'll come out. That's something that I've only done this once, so that's a little bit of an experiment in itself. But that's something you can play with when you do this on your own. All right, so I got them all in one thing now that they're cooked. They've shrunken down a little bit, but that's what they should look like, roughly French fries. The purple yams probably don't have quite the right texture to mimic sweet potato fries, but I'm going with the whole IBD purple color just to be different. But that's it right there. And then also, I forgot to mention earlier too, you can salt them in with the other seasoning or salt them afterward, like this, or not salt them at all, whatever you prefer. But that's just another thing that's just kind of, everyone has their own things. But there you go, oven baked sweet potato fries ready to eat.